Hello, second class. Hope you're all still keeping well. I'm going to do a bit more hands and knees work in this class. If that doesn't suit you, I'll give you options, but don't forget you can always go and watch the first video and do the seated work from there if you find that this hands and knees doesn't suit you. You can mix and match and do it that way. The videos will be up on this link for 2 weeks. After that we'll put them on YouTube, so you can use them as often as you want to. Oh, thanks for all your comments about the first one, you're very nice. Right, so you're going to start lying down. Again, check your space, make sure that you've got plenty of room before you start. Grab a cushion if you want. Have a mat if you want one and need one. Lie yourself down. Right, get yourself comfortable. You might want to start with your knees bent if your back's feeling a bit tight, or your legs straight otherwise, so relax the shoulders and breathe. Give yourself a little bit of time just to be aware of your body, how it's lying on the floor. Feel the ribcage expand and contract as you breathe, and your spine starting to lengthen out along your mat. When you're ready, you're going to turn your head from side to side. Gives you that time just to work, just think about the shoulders really, because you don't really notice that they've hunched up until you start to move your head, so you can reset them. That's a bit of a massage on the back of the head. You can hold this stretch for a few seconds when it feels easier. Use that time to take a couple of deep breaths. Over to the other side. Nice to hear some of you are getting other people in the house joining in. Feel free to pass on to others if you want to. And then bring your head back to centre and onto the shoulders. So start with a bent arm, so whichever arm you fancy, bend your arm, hand just resting on the shoulder if it's comfortable, and circle around, just working around inside that shoulder joint. Keeping the rest of the body just still on the floor. A few in each direction and then change direction with that arm. If it's not comfortable holding the shoulder, you don't need to. If that starts to feel looser and you've got the space, you can do a straight arm. Trying to keep the ribcage squeezed down slightly towards the hips so you're not overreaching. Try and avoid this kind of big overreach because your back muscles aren't warm for that yet. And again, you can change direction when you fancy. And then you just move over and do the same on the other arm. So start with your arm bent. It's just lighter, a little bit easier to move. Stirring it around. Both directions. It might be creaking a bit. If you are finding there's any pain in these joints, just bring the work down a little bit. You're just looking to feel everything start to loosen up. And again, when that's looser, if you want to, as long as you've got the space, you can do a big arm circle. But again, keep the rib cage just slightly squeezed down to the hips, not overreaching. Both directions again. And when that arm's had enough, if you want, you can do the back stroke, so both arms back. This one you've got to really watch that you don't arch the back. We're going to come to the back and then it up a bit. This was just really for the shoulders. So squeeze the ribs to the hips as the arms travel. You can leave the arms back for a few seconds and enjoy that nice stretch. You might find this is a time where you're able to straighten your legs and enjoy that big stretch through the abdominal muscles. One more, and you're going to hold this stretch for a few seconds. Do not hold your breath. I want you to breathe nice and deep into your belly. Lengthen through the top of your head, through your heels, feel your spine stretch. Okay, and then we're going to stretch across the chest, so options to put your hands underneath your head. If you don't like that or it doesn't suit your shoulders, remember you can just lie still with your arms out to the side instead. If you've got your hands underneath your head, you're going to have to work for your lunge. So you're going to bring your elbows in and out. Doesn't have to touch the floor, the elbow doesn't, but what I want is, again, avoid over lifting, because you're going to feel that in your back. Those muscles are going to complain. I just want you to feel a stretch across your chest. Good. If you want to, I know some people have been doing it already, but if you find it easier to watch the video through first and then join in, so you're not trying to crane your neck to see what I'm going on about, you can do that. You can always stop me. Squeezing the chest, squeezing the shoulder blades together on this one as the chest muscles stretch. And again, when this feels a little bit easier, you can keep the arms out for a bit longer and breathe deeper. Really expand the rib cage. It's one of the areas that we've got to work on when we're indoors more. We're going to get very tight across these chest muscles. Okay, and then we'll move down to the torso. You can keep your hands underneath your head for your twist if you want. More difficult to stabilise the shoulders, remember, so the option, a little bit easier to balance, is arms out to the side, bend the knees. You can put your cushion between your knees if you find that more comfortable, and then you're going to twist. Take the legs over to one side. If you want to turn your head the opposite direction, if you can hear me with my head turned away, come back to centre. Same the other side. Don't rush this move. Try and stack your feet if you can. And you're lengthening through this top leg. Top of your head is reaching to the top of your mat. Stretching down the side of the leg. Good. It's a good stretch, this one. Now, those of you who are very flexible, always be wary of trying to find that stretch, because you're not going to find it until you get right to the end of your range, and that's not good for your joints. Same for any pregnant ladies joining in. You're just getting a nice, comfortable mid-range stretch. Don't go for extremes. None of us should, but particularly very bendy or pregnant. Just find that midpoint and enjoy a nice, easy, comfortable stretch. You can develop the stretch by staying there a little bit longer, and in that point, if you want, you can push through the top leg. If you push through the foot, through the heel, that's going to stretch down the side of that leg. Another area where we're going to get tight indoors is the hamstrings and the hips. So just stretching out. If you don't like this, or you haven't got space to push your legs straight, your other option, as long as you haven't got a hip replacement, is to cross one leg over the top. You can try both, see which one suits you. Have a go at both of them. It just adds on a little bit more weight to the legs, increases the stretch slightly. Good. And then come back to centre. And then we're going to just do the lower back a little bit. So what I want you to do is just, if you're comfortable doing so, bring your knees in. Don't yank on them, just let them come in as far as they want to and cradle them. So either around the back or front of the legs, wherever you're comfortable. And you just stretch in the lower back, just letting it relax into the floor. Breathe in and breathe out. Just lie here for a second. You might find that the legs, just the weight of the legs increases the stretch for you. If your shoulders are tensing, then you've got to let the work off a little bit. Relax the neck. Reset the head if you find your chin's pinged up to the ceiling. And then, if you're comfortable just staying still, fine, stay here. But if you're a bit of a fidgeter and you want to move, just support the legs and let them rock. You are literally just supporting, so you're letting the legs sit against the hands. You can do it around the front of the legs if you prefer. But you will feel your abdominal muscles starting to work. So as those knees come in, hips are squeezing towards ribs, abdominals are contracting. So you will feel that working. And then you start to notice all those tight muscles. So you can start to work this one a little bit more. You can bring the knees together and circle round, massaging around the lower spine. Moving around. Hip replacements, I would stay with this just because it supports the hip a little bit more, but otherwise if you want to, you can do circles in each direction. Just finding those knots in those hips and massaging it out. Good. And then put your feet back to the floor and have a stretch. You can let your rib cage lift a little bit now because we have worked a little bit into the lower back, so you might want a bit of a deeper stretch now. Then we're going to get into the legs, so arms back down by your side, start with your knees bent, reset the hips so you've got a straight line down the front in your neutral, squeeze your abdominals slightly to hold that shape, and then start to straighten and bend the legs. We're just starting to work into the legs and the hips a little bit, nothing too major to start with. But it's a good opportunity to start thinking about really using these stabilising muscles. So the pelvis is going to stay square, so it's not tipping around. Slow down a little bit if you're not sure what's doing what, and if you imagine a glass of water sat on your belly, as the legs travel, the glass of water's not moving. And you can stay with this. This is a good exercise if your legs are feeling a little bit tight around the knee and the hip. Stretching out, and you can start to add a little bit of an ankle circle on just to get the calf muscles and the feet warmed up. If you want to develop the move, you can bring the leg up, stretching up. Don't worry if the leg doesn't straighten, especially at first, it doesn't matter. What I don't want you to do though is push out to sort of 45 just to get it straight. You're just kicking upwards. Remember, you're only warming up. With this one, my knees are creaking today, you can straighten the leg and add, or as much as it will, and add a little bit of an ankle circle on there as well. If you like having your feet off the floor, if this suits you, you can put your hands at the back of the legs again and alternate. It's quite nice if your back's quite tight to do this, I think. And again, add your ankle circle on. It's good for your circulation as well. Just check your neck. Sometimes if you're tight on the hamstrings, it forces your chin up. So just check your neck hasn't come out of position. You always put a cushion underneath your head if you want. And you can start to do both feet together if you want to. Lift and straighten both legs. If there is anybody else in the room who is not doing the exercise, they are not allowed to laugh. Stretch. Good. And then we get into our happy baby. So this is good for the tight hips. So all you're going to do at first is to just separate the knees about shoulder width and put the hands at the back of the knees. Relax the shoulders. If you're not comfortable in this position, the alternative is to put your feet on the floor and just let your knees separate down here. If you find that is more comfortable for you, you can do both. Just build it up if you want to. But if you've got your feet off the floor, and then you can maybe have your legs a bit straighter and hold a little bit lower down. And if that feels good, bring the legs towards you a little bit more and hold the toes and push your toes into your fingers. And you'll feel that stretch on the back of the leg. Again, if it doesn't suit you, you're just going to lie with your feet on the floor and your arms out to the side instead. If you're happy here, this is your happy baby pose. Push your feet into your fingers. You can rock around, you can do a little bit of leg bending and straightening if you want to. Just getting the legs warmed up. Remember, if you are very bendy, you're not going to get an extreme, you're not going to get a massive amount of stretch, you're just getting everything working a little bit. But if you've got tight legs like me, you're going to be feeling this. Cool. And then put your feet down and have another stretch. I'm going to finish with a little bit of upper back stretch. Don't worry too much about this one if it doesn't suit you, because we're going to come on to hands and knees in a second anyway. This one, not for osteoporosis, not for slipped discs. If you are pregnant, you're just going to keep it very small to keep these abdominals tight. But the rest of you, if you want to give it a go, we're going to do a little bit of ab curl just to get the back moving a bit more. So you're going to come feet off the floor if that suits you. Hands at the back of the head, abdominals pulled in. Keeping the gap under your chin, you're going to squeeze ribs to hips and curl up and curl down. Now these abdominals must stay in. There's no point doing this if you're pushing out there because these muscles are not working there. So you're squeezing your ribs down over your belly towards your hips. So any pregnancy, keep your feet on the floor and just a small lift, pulling in nice and tight at the centre. And enjoy the stretch back out again. This isn't just coming up and flat down again. Enjoy the roll back to the floor. It's as big a part of the move as the coming up. So you're peeling away from the floor and you're rolling back to the floor. Hand can be at the back of the leg to give you a bit of help if you want. Hand can be underneath the head to support the weight of your head. Not to pull up. Enjoy the stretch back to the floor. It's a good one for stretching out the lower back as long as you listen to your body. One more. Lovely. And if you have a stretch now, you're going to feel those muscles stretching back out again. Right, then we're going to do some hands and knees work. So to sit up, you can either put your hands underneath you, palms down and push yourself up that way, or my prefer is to roll over onto one side, bring yourself up, hands on the floor, big push down into your palms and bring yourself onto your hands and knees. Remember, those of you who don't like being on your hands and knees, you've always got the option of sitting on your bum. I'll do a quick demo. Sitting on your bum, bending and stretching. Just watch the ornaments. This is your option if you don't want to be on your knees, but hands and knees if you can. Hands underneath the shoulders, knees underneath the hips. Separate the fingers and put a little bit of pressure in the arms so you're not just hanging there. Then we're going to start our cat and cow. We're going to build it up from small. So we're going to start with just the tailbone. So you're going to be aware of the lower abdominal muscles working. But the rest of the spine isn't really moving, so you're stabilising the rest of your body. And then a little bit at a time, you start to bring more of the body into the move. Slowly tucking and back out. If you don't like the arch, if that doesn't suit you, I'll give you the option of being on your knees in a second. So if you're finding that you can tuck under okay, but you can't stick your bum up, just come to neutral. But slowly working through the spine if you can. Lengthen. When you're doing, if you are arching your back, think about lengthening through the front abdominal. So your tailbone is going back and up and your head is going forward and up. Slowly building it. Start to feel more of your spine moving. Still push the floor away with your arms, don't hang through those shoulders. And start to enjoy the stretch. You might find, if you are having to do more sitting down at the moment, just because there's not enough space to do a fat lot else, that this stretch is quite a challenge. So your option instead is to stretch upon your knees. You might find that easier to get the upper back working, so you're going to slide your shoulders back and down and lift your chest. Same on your knees, you're going to slide your shoulders back and down and lift your chest. I'm going to do one more. So hopefully you've got to full range now. I've been blathering around and moving about a bit, but hopefully you've been getting on and you've got to full range all the way through the spine. And then come back to centre. Now we're going to do a little bit of knee hovering to build up the strength in the upper arms. I can hear the groaning. Cross the shoulders. Remember, you can do this one on your hands or you can come down on your elbows. Just be careful of that shoulder hunch. If you are doing this from your arms, I don't want your shoulders up around your ears, keep them down. Otherwise, hands, flat feet if you want, or tuck toes if you prefer. You're going to push the floor away with your arms. Feel these arm muscles engage, feel the abdominals tighten and lift the knees. Hold it for about 5 seconds and down. Relaxing. Come up again. Now, when you hold it, don't hold your breath. I want you to try and breathe through your rib cage even with your knees off the floor. So you're going to try and stay there for at least one breath, and your rib cage is going to widen as you breathe. Relaxing when you can. I'm going to build this move up. If the build up is too much, stay with as many of these reps as you want to and then rest. But the build up from here, when you hover the knees, push your hips up. Don't worry about your feet, it's a priority to the spine. Lengthen the spine. When you come back down, keep the knees hovered. Push up. Bringing your torso towards your legs, relaxing the neck. Back to that hover. If you find the hover is too much, you can put your knees flat to the floor if you want to. Push up. See if you can keep that hover. If you are hovering your knees, see if you can keep it. Go back to your 5-second hover. Then push up. Much harder. Breathe in the hover. And then maybe 2 more if you can. Lovely. And then you're going to rest. Have a rest. Child's pose is a nice rest if it suits you. Child's pose does not have to be low down here. You can have your hands, arms straight and be quite high. It's still child's pose. You can sit on a cushion if you prefer. Don't have to come low for child's pose if it doesn't suit you. Breathe. Okay, we're going to do a bit more strength work. I'm going to do level 2 swimming. I'll give you a brief reminder. We're going to end up in that shape. If that doesn't suit you, you can lie down. So I'll do this first. If it doesn't, and then I'll remind you of the slightly easier version if you want. So from your hands and knees, hands underneath the shoulders, knees underneath the hips. Now lengthen the spine, squeeze the abdominal muscles and put some weight in these arms. Push the floor away. Use your lower legs as a little bit of a balance as well. I want you to focus on the centre of your mat and keep your weight in the centre of your mat. When you're ready, press down a little bit into your arms. Take the weight off your right leg and slide your right foot back. Don't put pressure on your toes, you'll get cramp. Line the hips up, square them up. Put pressure in your right hand, push down through your right hand. Slide your left hand forward. Square your shoulders, square your hips. Breathe. When you're ready, if you can, lengthen and lift the hand and foot. Keep pulling this left shoulder back because it will try and reach forward. Keep lowering, keep squaring up the right hip because it will try and move out of position. Come back to the floor, back in. Have a quick rest, have a fidget. Same on the other side. So press down through the arms, engage the core, lengthen the spine. Take the weight off the left leg and slide the left foot back. Hold it there. Press down through the left arm, slide the right hand forward. Pull that shoulder back. When you're ready, if you can, lift hand and foot. Try not to drop in the middle, lengthen through. Use your left arm for support, use your right leg for support, hold it and breathe. Back down, back in. Carry on with that. Or if you find that too difficult, lie down, bring your arms out in front, relax the shoulders, squeeze the abdominals a little bit, lift opposite arm and leg just slightly off the floor. It's all about strengthening the spine, this. So that's your option. How are we getting on those hands and knees? It's tough, isn't it, this one? Some of you, I know, are good at this move. If you're finding that the hold, it's alright, but you want to do a little bit more, remember add that cheeky little square on. Check this shoulder, it's going to try and drop down, keep pulling it back, keep checking this hip. They don't have to be perfect squares, but I don't want circles. Try and do maybe 5. They're not exactly the same, but the aim is to keep the shoulder and the hips still and the spine long. Do one side, same on the other. So square the hip, square the shoulder, pull in, lengthen that spine and lift. Use this arm, use this leg. Good. It's tough, isn't it? When you've had enough, sit into your recovery. Might look a bit like this one. Sorry, I can't be serious all the way through, it wouldn't be me, would it? Have a nice relax. Then we're going to do one more strength move. I know it's tough. We're going to do a bit of 3/4 plank to really get these muscles working around here and to build that shoulder strength. So hands a little bit further forward. Tighten the belly, relax the shoulders. Now you're going to bring your weight forward onto your hands, pushing the floor away as you come. Tighten the bum, lift the torso. Try and avoid hanging here, it's not passive. Stretch. Hold it for your 5 seconds. Get your breath in during those seconds. And push back onto your knees, sitting back, tucking your chin in lightly as you sit back. Hip replacement, listen to that replacement only as far as it wants to go, don't push. So you're coming up and forward, pushing the floor away, squeezing your bum. Holding it for your breath. You can do 2 or 3 breaths if you want to here. You haven't got to come straight out of it if you like this position. Just be careful, again, if you're very flexible, there's a tendency to just hang here. You could stay here all day. You've got to be pulling away from the floor, pushing yourself up. Again, I'm going to give a harder version for those who want it. Don't feel under pressure to do it, but you come to that 3/4 plank, you tuck the toes, straighten your legs. I do them one at a time, and if you feel that you're uncomfortable in the lower back, just lift your hips slightly higher. Hold this for 1 or 2 breaths. Then back down and sit back. With your knees off the floor, there's nothing supporting your torso other than your hands and your core strength. So use your arms. Push through your heels, push through your head. Sitting yourself back. I've made this one a little bit harder today if you're wondering, just because I know you've probably not been doing quite so much gardening and stuff the last few days because it's not been so good, so keeping you strong. But listen to your body, stop when you've had enough. If you want to do more reps on any of the moves, you can just stop me and carry on and come back to me when you're ready. Next one we're going to do is chest opener. So you're going to lie on your side. Phew. Down you go. We always smile at chest opener. Get your cushion underneath your head if you want. Get your arm underneath your head if you prefer. Now pull this centre in. This is not an excuse to just sit into the floor because this hip is not supported. Lift. Lift that rib cage. Get the arm out in front. You're going to lift your arm up to the ceiling. Little squeeze of the shoulder blades together. And then twist. You can turn your head. Make these legs active. Let the legs sinking into the floor. Reaching through that arm. Hold it for a second or two. To the ceiling and down. Remember this move, you're going to carry on. It's not about touching the floor. That arm is reaching out. If your arm goes much lower than mine, that's you. Well done. But what I don't want is this touching the floor business where you're groping behind you for the mat. Hips are stacked. You can put your top knee down on the floor if you find that easier. So your second class in, I'm back into nagging mode. When I put the link up for this, I'll also give you a link to a circuit class. Chris has been doing a circuit class and I joined in the other day and did a low impact version. So all the moves where he's jumping up and down, I'm doing a not up jumping up and down version. So if you want to give it a go as a bit of variety, feel free. It'll give you a bit more muscle strength work to have a go at and a bit of CV as well. added bonus on that class is I don't do a lot of talking. So reaching up, pull that rib cage up and reach back. Nice heavy legs. Breathe in here, just allows you that time for the stretch. If you are feeling any pinching in the lower back, I'd suggest putting the top knee down and lifting that rib cage slightly. One more. Oh, so we get to do lots and lots of plank and very little chest opener. Where is it? Good. And have a quick rest while I realise my exercises are behind me. Right. So now we're going to work into the hips a little bit. We're going to end up in scissors, but I'm going to build it up because I know not everybody likes full scissors. So if you start with your bottom leg bent and your top leg straight, lift your rib cage, stack your hips so you're not leaning back or forward, and stretch through this top leg. Stretch through your heel, stretch through your head. Keeping the pelvis tight, so squeeze the abdominal muscles in. Just move your top leg forward and back a little bit. Trying to keep your tailbone pointing down to your heel on this top leg. Bottom leg, sorry. So your tailbone stays pointing to the bottom end of your mat. It doesn't swing. And as you get the stability building up in the centre, you might find that swing can get a little bit bigger, but your pelvis doesn't swing with the leg. So this is your single leg scissor. If you want to try double leg scissors, get both legs straight. Push through both legs, draw the rib cage. Check your shoulder position. Sometimes you overwork the shoulders when both legs are straight, so be mindful of that. And then you scissor both legs. You can put your top fingers on the floor or on your leg. Push through your heels on this move. Draw yourself along your mat. You will feel some pressure on this bottom hip. If it's too much, keep that leg bent. But just to decrease the pressure, stretch out. The pressure will be hard in that hip if all your weight is pushed down in your hip. And you start to make that scissor a little bit bigger as your legs start to stretch. Check your shoulders aren't scissoring in the opposite direction. They'll try. Push through your feet. Really good for loosening the hips, this, if they're a bit tight. One more. Go on. You talk me into it, we'll do two more. Enjoy that stretch. And then have a little rest. Give those bum muscles a rub. Then we're going to do your arms. I might as well bring this side, mightn't I? What's it doing behind me? So then we're going to do our arm circles. So this is going to loosen the shoulders and the torso a bit. Have your legs bent and about a sort of a 90 degrees position so you feel comfortable on your mat. Fidget around as you want to. I'm going to start with the arm bent, just for those of you with tight shoulders, and then I'll make it a straight arm. So what you're going to do to start with is, with your arm down by your side, you're just going to circle your shoulder out. My suggestive shoulder move. So you can stay with that. Trying to draw a circle with his shoulder. Letting yourself roll back and forward slightly. If that feels okay, next version is to just have the arm bent. And this makes the move a little bit bigger. Just have your hand or your cushion underneath your head just to support your head as you roll. If that feels okay, you can do a straight arm version. Check the ornaments. Roll it. And you can make the move gradually bigger, reaching a little bit further, rolling back a little bit further. You will feel a bit of slide on these legs if you tighten the hips like me, but we'll overlook it, we're human. Just enjoy that stretch. If you are getting creaking and pain in the shoulder, go back to the lighter arm versions. And you can come the other way. I struggle to come the other way because I'm so used to this move. But you can do your reverse circle. So you circle your shoulder the other way, you circle your elbow the other way, and you circle your arm. I'm going to go a bit dizzy now doing this a bit quick. You slow down when you do this. Just reaching around, opening up through the back. I won't do too many because the shoulder underneath starts to get a bit achy. And then have a little rest. Get the shoulder underneath you. If it needs you to take the weight off it for a second or two, you can always sit up. Just give that shoulder a little bit of a rub. Right, side plank time. Side plank is a tough move, as you all know. It puts pressure on this shoulder, so if you are suffering with your shoulder, just stay literally sitting. So the first thing is you're going to come up to your side, you're going to have your knees bent, and you're going to have your hand or elbow underneath your shoulder. And this is a low side plank. Pulling the rib cage up, raising the arm if you want to. So on your elbow if that suits you, or on your hand, reaching for the ceiling. If you want to try the actual side plank, straighten the top leg, rest on the inside edge of your foot. If you're resting on your heel, this hip is too far back. So line yourself up, looking towards the front. Use your arm, your legs, your torso to lift you. Hold it for a few seconds and back to the floor. Lifting. Now stretch out. Check your neck. Sometimes we let our head drop one way or the other. If this bottom leg is getting cramp, you need to use your top leg and your arm a little bit more. You're putting too much pressure on this leg. If you want to make the move a little bit more challenging, squeeze your bum and lift the top leg. Hold it for about 5 seconds again, probably just a breath, and then down. So you're lifting yourself up, looking forward, squeezing the waist, squeezing the bum, lifting the leg. Remember, you've always got your side sways. I'm not going to do it because it gets confusing if I give too many options. Those of you who know side sways, if you prefer it to side plank, that's fine. If you are lifting this leg, it doesn't mean the hip drops. As the leg lifts, the hip stays lifted. Holding it for your seconds. And down. Good. 2 more. Lift. Lift. One more. Lift. Squeeze. Lengthen the spine. Lift the leg if you're going to. Marvellous. And down. You probably feel those legs now. I can. On to the other side. You roll over. We've got chest opener first. So lie yourself down again. Get your shoulders comfortable. Get your arm underneath your head. Knees are bent. One leg in front if you prefer. Arm out in front. Lift and twist. Opening the chest. Head supported. And down. So remember, when you lift the arm, you're also keeping that rib cage lifted. It wants to drop. It's really easy for it to just drop down as we focus on the arm. So keep lifting it up. You'll feel the benefit in this top hip. So I had a suggestion that we should let Benny come and do a photo op in the class. He did it in Chris's circuit. He wasn't supposed to, Chris was doing circuits outside and Benny went for a pee at the same time. So no, he will not be appearing in my video. Yeah, reaching. Supporting your head, a nice stretch through the spine. I'll let you do one more. Remember, you can always stop this video at any time and just do a few more of any of the moves or move it on. It's a good thing about it being recorded. You can make it suit you. Then we're going to get into the scissors. So to start, we're going to have the bottom leg bent and the top leg straight. I'm going to stretch out. Pull the rib cage up, square the hips. And then you're just going to start to move this top leg. It won't move a lot to start with because you've got to work out how much stability you need in the centre. So you just gradually, like a pendulum, just building. Keeping this really tight. There's no point moving the leg if the whole of your body is just swaying with it. There's no core strength there. So keep the rib cage lifted and move the leg. And bit by bit, just check this shoulder isn't doing too much work. You'll start to find your balance, find your stability, push through the heel and move the leg. If you want full scissors, have the legs straight. Stretch out. This bottom leg is just tense so that it's not just sliding along the mat. So stretch out through the bottom leg, top leg about hip height, and then you scissor both legs. The tailbone is staying down towards the bottom end of your mat. Stretch through your head. And just like with a single leg, as you start to find your stability, the move will get bigger. So slow down a little bit. Very hard to be stable if your legs are moving 100 miles an hour. You're going to have some pressure on this bottom hip, so if it gets too much, just bend that leg again. Just move through the top, but keep lifting the rib cage, stretching through your spine. Enjoy that nice stretch through the legs. Remember, this is really key for any runners. You're probably not getting as much running in as you'd like, or maybe you're lucky enough to be somewhere where you're not bumping into people every 5 steps. So you might find your hips are getting a bit tight. Good stretch. Push through those heels. Just do one more. Check this shoulder. I can notice my shoulder's starting to get a little bit tired. So just be careful of this shoulder underneath you. And when you've had enough, bend your legs. Remember, if you haven't, just do a few more. We're going to do your arm circling next. I'm going to build that one up. So you've got time to squeeze a few more in if you want. For your circling, you're going to have that 90-degree angle on your legs. Again, get your head comfy. Lift the rib cage slightly. I'm going to start with a suggestive shoulder. Always makes me smile, that. So circling around. Just starting to mobilise through the shoulder, through the chest, through the upper back. You can stay with this, or you can bend the arm and do a little bit of a bigger circle, rolling back. Just have your hand or your cushion there to support your head as you roll back. You can do these moves slower than I am, if you want to. And if this move feels good and you want to develop to the full move, then you make the big circle. Round you go. Starting to reach a little bit further, opening up through that torso. Don't forget to breathe. So again, if it starts to ache or it feels a little bit tight, go back to the easier versions. And you can reverse your circle when you're ready. So again, you do the same that we've just done, but rolling forwards. You can do a suggestive shoulder, you can do a suggestive shoulder forward, you know what I mean? Or you can do the hand on the shoulder. And then you can do a full arm. Slow it down a little bit if you want to. It's good for getting the side muscles working as well. Your oblique muscles are working quite hard here, and we're warming them up nicely for the side plank. Oh, forgot about side plank. One more. Cool. And then we've got our side plank. So it's quite nice to get off this shoulder anyway. So sit yourself up. You'll leave that shoulder a little bit of a rub out first. Then side plank, remember it is a tough move. I don't want you to hurt yourself, that's not the point of the exercises. So you can stay still on your elbow or your hand, pulling that rib cage up. That is strength for these side muscles here. Alternatively, you can, additionally rather, you can lift the arm, keep pulling yourself up to the ceiling. If you want the actual plank, straighten the top leg. Check you are lying on this side of your foot. If you're lying on the heel, then you're sitting back and you're going to end up lifting that way, which the arm's not going to like. So get yourself square, Raise your arm. Use this arm, the legs to lift you up. And down. And again, if you prefer to be on your elbow, you can be. Hold it for just a few seconds because I want you to focus on the lifting, not just the being up there and staying up there. If you do want to add on, you come up to your plank, you squeeze your bum muscles and you lift the top leg. Hold it for around about 5 seconds. I'm not going to time you. You can use it with just a breath. So I'm going to stay here and breathe in. And breathe out. And then go down. See if that suits you. So you go up, squeeze the bum, lift the leg, breathe in. Breathe out and down. When you lift that lift that leg, check the hip doesn't drop. Lift it. This bottom leg is doing a lot of work. If it starts to feel a bit crampy, make sure you're using the arm and the other leg to help lift you. And then lengthen through the spine, squeezing the bum muscles. Good. I can hear the cursing. Lift. Keep lifting up through those hips. One more, if you can. Lift. Low. And down. Good. Onto your bum. And then lie yourself down and draw those knees in. That'll feel good after that. If you don't like your knees drawn in, you can just keep your feet on the floor. And breathe. Give yourself a minute, because that was tough work, that. We're going to do a little bit of twisting while we're here. So, supine twist we did already in the warm-up. So we'll start with that level and then I'll build it up a little bit so you can bring it into the main body of the class as well. So for the start with, knees and feet together, feet on the floor, arms out. So you're going to twist. Remind you now, just twisting. So you can stay with this version. Very good for keeping that mobility around the torso. Still gets the oblique muscles working, side abdominals. Or you can come to your feet off the floor. So if you just bring your feet up one at a time, you can tilt back. You can have your knees quite close on supine twist because we're not working the front abdominals. So you can bring them in quite close and then twist. Check that you're not pushing into your arms. Rocking gently. You don't have to go a long way. I see sometimes people go all the way over, but that's not controlled. Just rocking from one side to the other. Squeezing. If you want to make the move more challenging for stability, you take your arms off the floor. So now you're really going to have to squeeze those waist muscles in. Check you're not pushing on your neck. So it's not a big rock. If you want to challenge the move a bit further again, you have the legs straighter, so they're heavier. But again, it's not a massive move. So it's that pendulum. You can probably hear my clock ticking. You can now. Now I've pointed it out. Don't forget you can put your music on in the background. If you find music that you like that goes well with your Pilates, you can bring it to the class when we're all together. Just rocking. Feet on the floor if that suits you better. Yeah. Okay, you probably had enough anyway, so if you put your feet down and have a stretch out. We're getting to the end now. We'll just do a little bit of knee fold to get the front abdominals working. So relax the shoulders, have your feet on the floor. We're going to start with marching, so you're going to lift your foot just slightly off the mat. And down, and the same on the other. Just like we did with the scissors. When you were lying on your side, I got you to just move your legs a little bit to start with. It's the same now. What we're looking at is that we've got the right amount of stability here, that when we lift the foot, the pelvis stays neutral. It doesn't drop or twist. Just lift a little bit. When we're happy, when you're happy that you've got that stability, glass of water sitting there, then you can come to your single knee fold if you want to. And you can start to hold that position for your breath or your 5 seconds. And hopefully you can feel these thigh muscles working. Try not to rock. You can come to double knee fold if it's appropriate for you. Bring the one leg up. And you can bring the knee in a little bit closer if that supports your back a little bit more. Squeeze the centre and bring the second leg up. Check you've bent your knee. Sometimes people end up in that shape, so make sure you're bending your knees, relaxing the shoulders. One at a time, feet to the floor. And these legs need to look weightless. So when they're coming up, you lengthen the spine, squeeze the centre, and they float. It's like pelvic tilt if your back's feeling a bit tight. Keep this drawn in. This is where, if you remember in the class, I quite often come along and I stand on your belly. Remember that? That's it. One more. I was joking. Just in case there's anybody new that, what? And have a stretch out. Yes, if your other half has just said that they have to now stand on your belly because Sharon does, they're lying. And we're going to finish with hip lifts. So if you've got a cushion underneath your head, take it away. Have your knees bent. You can put a cushion between your knees if you want to. It's going to make you work the inner thigh muscles a bit. So if you put a cushion or a block, if you've got one between your knees, it will activate the inner thigh muscles. Check your heels aren't too far away. You want your heels directly underneath your knees. And you clench your bum muscles, not tilt in the pelvis. So squeeze. Use your arms to help you if you want, and you lift up. Hold it for a second or two, and down. Trying to keep this torso really still. So you squeeze the belly in, you squeeze the waist in, clench the bum and lift. Now this one, it's really good to do in your own, because if you're limited in space, you'll end up with your head wedged against the wall if you're not careful. You've got to keep your head still. So put a little bit of pressure in your shoulders and your arms if you want to, and lift. If you're okay in that bridge, stay there and let your arms float up and back. Lift, keep those hips lifted, squeeze your bum. Bring your arms back up to the ceiling and lower yourself down to the floor. Some people find when they go up, they get pinching around the hips. That might be the pelvis tilting one way or the other. So as you go up, squeeze the bum and think about lifting up through the front. Hold it, float the arms. Those hips up, want the bum muscles working. Up to the ceiling and down. Just do me one more. Lift up, squeeze, keep those hips up, want your legs muscles to be working and your bum. Lift the arms up and back. Check your feet, not pinching. Back to the ceiling and down. And again, if you're comfortable doing so, it's nice to hook the knees in here. Move around a bit. We're coming to the end. I'm going to finish just lying down today. It's kind of good to do that. So have your feet on the floor, your legs bent or straight, whatever suits you, and breathe. And you're going to give your body just a little bit of time, just as we did at the beginning. So you can let your hands turn over if you want to. You can let your legs straighten or go into your soles of your feet together, whatever position allows you to relax. And you're going to breathe in. And you're going to breathe out. Full breath in, fill your belly up with air. Full breath out. push it out. A couple more of these. Checking for any tension. Just let it go. Breathe it out if it helps. I'm going to finish there. You stay down here as long as you want to. Be careful when you stand up that you might go a little bit dizzy. So always come over and up, bit at a time. Take your time. And feel free to send me comments on the WhatsApp. It's very nice to hear from you all. Keep safe and I will see you soon. Bye bye.